don't think you're sleeping. You come back in an hour.
Need sleepy.
Please go away. Let me sleep for the love of God!
It's now time for the Billy C. Morning Show, part of the Billy C. Boxing Network. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studio in Lake George, New York. In snowy Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C. Morning Show. Good morning to everyone, especially all of our viewers on Fight TV and our listeners throughout the country and Canada on multiple radio networks, and, of course, our YouTube following. And don't forget, you can get Fight TV on your handheld. Just go to fight.tv, FITE.tv/Billy C. Download the app for free today and watch the show on your handheld. Today's show, she's being brought to us by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located in St. Simons Island, Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com. I'll give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. And don't forget, it's 15 minutes out your way off of I-95. Check out the website for the address, or just drop me an email, billy@talkinboxing, TALKINBOXING.com. Don't forget about the new fantasy game, Fire Fan. You want to download it for free? You want to play it forever for free and win money without laying out a nickel? Well, then go to firefan.com and use the code BillyCBoxing. Or, hey, make life easy for yourself. Click the FireFan banner up on BillyCBoxing.com, and the code's already there for you. Find out what I'm talking about. It's the newest fantasy game. Covers not only football, but baseball and basketball and hockey and every other sport in between. Check out firefan.com. Use the code BillyCBoxing. Today's show is also being brought to you in part by the best stocking stuffer gift you can give for this holiday season. My book, Tom Molino from Bondage to Betters Men on the Plane, is available right now where all good books are sold. You can literally get a copy of it right now by going to BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. Or if you want a signed copy or a personalized message, just visit our website, www.BillyCBoxing.com, and go to the book club section. Find out where we got a 5-star rating across the damn board. Today's show, coming up a little bit later, we got Dax Khan. He's going to be joining us. Wednesday, we have our Blast from the Past featuring former world champion and boxing Hall of Famer Jimmy Wild. This was a request from a viewer and listener, so we'll be doing that. We got some other ones in the works that were requested by you, so if you want a specific blast, just drop in us an email. And don't forget, we're looking for your thoughts as we move into our 14th year. In 2017 will be our 14th year doing this show, and we're looking for your opinions on any kind of format changes you would like to see. We have our own ideas, but we're looking to get some from you. And speaking about getting ideas, joining me right now from a much warmer place than I'm in, please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, the one, the only, the original. There's no duplicate. Sal Rocky Senacola. What's up, Sal?
Hey, Bill, good morning. How are you today, buddy?
What, were you waiting for a longer intro? What were you taking a sip of your coffee?
I wasn't ready. I wasn't
taking
ready.
a sip of your coffee?
Yeah. But you know what? No.
I drew your curve. You know? I mean...
I see it, you know? I thought it was coming down the pike, you know?
Well, listen...
Very depressed after my Giants took a licking last night, boy, I'll tell you. Wow.
Well, it wasn't that surprising. And speaking of that, hey, that's a great segue, because I might as well get everybody caught up on all the other sports. You mentioned the NFL. Well, let's get everyone caught up on the scores for the NFL. Chiefs 29.
If you'd like to start off, do that. Let's go.
And the Chiefs beat the Falcons in a close game, 29-28. The Lions over the Saints, 28-13. Patriots beat up the Rams, and Tom Brady became the quarterback with the most wins. He passed Peyton Manning, so congrats to him. And he took out the Rams 26-10. Broncos over the Jaguars 20-10. The Packers over the Texans in a snowy one, 21-13. Bengals beat up on the Eagles. This was the Bengals team that everybody thought we'd see all year long, and we've seen it in far and few in between. 32-14. Ravens. You know, I've become a Dolphin fan because I spent so much time down in Florida, but the Ravens just smacked it. I thought the Dolphins were actually the Jets dressed as Dolphins, the way they played. 38-6, the Ravens dominated them. The Raiders just keep on. Raiders keep on winning. Yeah, no pun intended. The Raiders keep on winning. Atop of the AFC West, came on strong against the Buffalo Bills to win it 38-24. Steelers over the Giants 24-14, and I don't even think that the score was as the score seems like the game was closer than it was. Terrible game for the Giants. They did manage to put a couple of TDs on the board, but lose by 10 points to the Steelers. Cardinals over the Redskins 31-23. The Bucs keep winning. I think they're tied for first now in their division, 28-21 over the Chargers. And the Seahawks, they just smacked the living shit out of the Panthers, 40-7 in that one. Over in the NBA, the Magic topped the Pistons 98-92. Serge Ibaka gets 21 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. The Knickerbockers beat the Kings 106-98. Derrick Rose, 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists to leave the Knicks. The Pacers, 111-102 over the Clips. Paul George had 16.7 rebounds and 5 assists. And the Thunder, behind Russell Westbrook's, the Thunder behind Russell Westbrook's triple-double beat the Pelicans 101-92. Westbrook had 28 points, 17 rebounds, and 12 assists. Great game for Russell. Over in the NHL, the Canadiens beat the Kings in a shootout 5-4. The Hurricanes over the Lightning 1-0 in overtime. The Red Wings beat the Islanders 4-3 in overtime. Flyers over the Predators 4-2. Jets beat the Blackhawks 2-1. The Wild beat the Oilers 2-1 in overtime. And those Flames, they kicked the butts of the Ducks 8-3 in that one. Sal's favorite team. And that takes us through all the other scores.
The Ducks.
What's that? What's that? What are you saying?
I'm hearing the Flames and the Ducks. To me, it sounds like you had a roasted bird.
Yeah, you certainly did. They just kicked their butts, I said, those Flames. But anyway, slow weekend in boxing, at least here in this States. But fear not, this week coming up, we got Anthony Joshua fighting, Terence Crawford fighting, and Abner Mares. Looking forward to this upcoming weekend. And next, when we have B-Hop fight, and then that's it, pretty much, until the new year. So enjoy it while you can. Just to get everybody caught up on some boxing results, Sal, let's do that. In a world cruiserweight title fight, in the biggest, most important fight, I feel, this weekend, which incidentally threw us a curve because it wasn't a unification, as we find out at the last minute on Friday, that former IBF World Cruiserweight Champion Denis Ledebev, who actually had 2 belts, the IBF and the WBA, was not putting his WBA Cruiserweight title on the line. So as a result, Murat Gaziev wins a close decision over Denis Ledebev to only win his IBF title, to improve to 24-0 with 17 knockouts. Gaziev is now the IBF World Cruiserweight Champion, but despite losing, Denis Ledebev drops to 29 wins, 3 losses, with 22 coming by knockout. He still is the WBA Cruiserweight champ. The way the judges scored it, 2 of the judges had it at 116-112 and 116-111 for Gaziev. And the third judge had it for Ledebev, 114-113. So congrats to Gaziev. You know what, Sal? We just basically added another world champion to the mix. And despite losing, Ledebev still has a belt. So follow the bouncing belts. In a huge upset, In the junior welterweight division, Julius Ndongo improved to 21-0 with 11 knockouts when he destroyed the champion in the IBF, Edward Troyansky, in 40 seconds to take that title. Troyansky drops to 25-1 with 22 of his wins coming by knockout. A left to the chin put Troyansky to sleep. Sal, you would have loved it if you got a chance to see it. I know you were busy this weekend and didn't see it, but punch that one up. Julius Ndongo.
I am.
Now the IBF world champ. In the heavyweight division, Kubrat Pulev didn't surprise anyone when he fought former champion a long time ago, Samuel Peter. Pulev improves to 24-1 with 13 knockouts, and Peter drops to 36-5. Billy Joe Saunders, you remember him, right? He's a middleweight champion.
I remember Billy Joe Saunders. Yes, good fighter.
Well, he won a 12-round decision over Artur Akavov to improve to 24-0 with 17 knockouts Saturday night in Scotland. Snooze fest, terrible performance. He admitted it. The world admitted it. Billy Joe Saunders, let's just face it, he's borrowing the WBO belt, because if he fights Triple G, or even if he fights Saul Canelo Alvarez, he loses. He fights anybody good, he loses his belt. So you could see why he's fighting nondescript, non-known entities like Akavov. Also,
but he still pounds his chest, though.
No, he's pounding his chest. 116, 113, 116, 112, 115, 113, where the judges scored it. He did admit, though, Sal, that it was a poor performance. Maybe that's why he needs 16 months to prepare for Triple G. I mean, makes sense.
Well, that was 3 months ago.
Yeah, no, I know. On Friday, in probably the fight of the weekend in terms of entertainment value, Denis Shakarov improved to 38 wins, 2 losses, and a draw when he scored a 12-round split decision over Richard Comney, who drops to 24-2 with 22 knockouts. The fight took place in Moscow. The way the judges scored it, 115, 113, 116, 112 for Shakarov, and one judge had it 116, 112 for Comney. Comney felt he was robbed, Sal. He said, I clearly won the fight. It's very disappointing. Look how banged up he is. Round after round, it was the same thing. He bulled forward with his head, and I slammed him with uppercuts and lead rights. It was like target practice. While it could be made that Shakarov was the aggressor, there was nothing effective about his game plan whatsoever. He's a very one-dimensional and capable of beating some fighters, but he didn't beat me tonight.
Wow.
That's what you
but
get.
He didn't have all 3 judges with the exact same scorecard.
No, and that's what you get when you go to Moscow. The 2012 Olympian Jose Ramirez did what he was supposed to do in front of a late substitute of Isov Kinda. Ramirez improved to 18-0, stopping Kinda in the 6th round. Kinda drops to 18-3. FYI, it was in front of almost 14,000 fans, which was Jose Ramirez's biggest audience since he turned pro. Ashley Theophane improved to 40 wins, 7 losses, and 12 of his wins coming by knockout when he won a 10-round decision over Yakubu Adamu, who drops to 19-9. The way the judges scored it, 96-94, 97-83, and 100-90. I think that's 97-93, not 83, giving the fight to Ashley Theophane, who, in my opinion, has turned into one boring fighter. Tevin Farmer, who says he's ready to beat everybody, beat Dardan Ziniyov on Friday night to improve to 24 wins, 4 losses, and a draw. Ziniyov drops to 12-2. In the battle of the Lopez's, Sal, who do you think won?
Lopez.
You got it, Sal. You know it all, man. The guy, he knew that Lopez defeated Lopez in a tough fight down in L.A. on Friday night. Abraham Lopez.
It was a triple L.
That's right. Abraham Lopez improved to 22 wins and a draw with no losses when he won a unanimous decision over Sergio Lopez, who dropped to 20 wins and 13 losses. So that gets everybody caught up in the relevant fights from the weekend. But some disheartening news, Sal, I just wanted to mention. And when Dax comes on a little bit later, he's going to talk more about it. But a promising welterweight prospect, soon to be, or at least was moving up in the top 10 ranks, Ed Brown, who was undefeated, 20-0 with 16 knockouts, was shot over the weekend in Chicago. Apparently, he got shot as a drive-by shooter at 1 in the morning. Yeah, in Chicago, he was shot multiple times, including a serious shot to the head. He's in extremely critical condition. Obviously, his boxing career looks like it's over, and let's pray that he comes out of this alive. So apparently, a drive-by shot at some other people, and Ed Brown took multiple shots. So all this talk about Chicago being a bad place for murders in the last couple of years, they're certainly living up to it. And it's a shame.
Wow, it is a shame.
One other thing I wanted to mention, try to turn this a little positive. Anthony Joshua, who's fighting this weekend against Eric Molina, might be taking Molina a little lightly, Sal, because as you and I discussed just prior to coming live, Anthony Joshua's already scheduled, or at least planning on scheduling and announcing his fight with Vladimir Klitschko in April. They've already have a date set, April 29th, at Wembley Stadium. What kind of impact do you think that this will have on a fighter that's stepping in the ring this weekend? Now, Eric Molina, granted, he's no killer, but he is coming off of 2 wins since Deontay Wilder knocked him out in the 9th round in June of last year in a fight that he was giving Deontay Wilder, who I think is a fraud anyway, all kinds of trouble. But he did come back with a sacrificial lamb knockout over Rodrigo Ray. And then in a tough fight, a knockout win in his last fight in April of this year against Tomasz Adamek in Poland. Eric Molina is scheduled to face Anthony Joshua this weekend. Is Anthony Joshua, by them even talking about fighting in April, is this putting any added pressure, or is this a dangerous thing to do less than a week before his fight with Eric Molina this weekend?
Well, I don't know if he's going to continue to promote or to do that. It was mentioned, and his head is completely right now focused on Molina, because if he doesn't get past Molina, it's not going to be the kind of fight that they want it to be against Klitschko in April. So he knows he's got to beat. He knows he's got to go through Molina and do it in an impressive fashion, which we know he's always capable of showing us. And that's why he's an exciting young, great heavyweight on the rise. For a good stardom performance, I think each and every time he's a professional, he'll rise to the occasion, he'll put the blinders on, and he knows what he has at the task. And on the other note, don't talk too much about it. We know the fight's going to be with Klitschko, and it should take place, and he should get past Molina. But right now, let's focus on Molina. That's what his head's saying. That's what everything is. It's just a teaser. It's like putting that little lure out in the water. You got the one line set deep for the fish, and you got the lure on top. Nah, forget it. I'm not even going to go there. Just we know it.
I don't think any fighter should look, even though we're not happy with this matchup, for various reasons. I don't think any fighter should look past their opponent, because in this business,
never.
Even though we're down on it a little bit lately, you can't take your opponent lightly, and it's like that in any sport. You can't go to a football game just thinking that your opponent's going to just let you win. I mean, you got to play the game, you got to fight the fight, But anyway, in addition to that, I heard some comedy news today, or actually yesterday. Anthony Joshua's fight with Eric Molina will be available. We will be able to watch it on Showtime. But I know one thing. I'm going to be listening to it with the volume down. And go ahead, ask me why. Say why, Billy C.
Billy C., why are you going to listen to that fight with the volume down?
You know, that's funny you should ask me that, Sal, because it was released this weekend that Deontay Wilder, one of the biggest frauds in boxing, let alone the heavyweight division, is going to be a guest commentator on this fight. And I just can't even fathom what kind of bullshit is going to come out of his mouth. You know him. He's the guy who pounds his chest like he's the greatest heavyweight in the world today, and he's a fraud. He struggled with Eric Molina, and to date, he hasn't beaten any reputable heavyweight, and he's going to be the ringside analyst for the Anthony Joshua-Eric Molina fight. What are your thoughts on that, Sal Rocky Senecola?
Well, of course, with Deontay Wilder ringside, he's going to put his input and have everything that he has to say about Molina and Molina's chances and Molina, what he does here and there. And, of course, he's going to inflict a little bit of commentary about Joshua to maybe one day have a showdown against two great heavyweight champions in each, right? I'm being a little facetious. And I think he'll be looking at that angle to promote, to build up Molina, because that was his own foe at one time, and then also to promote what he would do and how he would fight Joshua, and what he sees in Joshua not doing right or something. He'll say something like that. So we'll see, and because he's going to want to keep that interest and that possibility alive, possibly for summer or fall of next year. Who knows?
He doesn't want to fight any real fighter. What he's going to do, I'll tell you right now, and you guys heard it here.
I want to hear what you have to say.
He's going to say how, he wants it. That Anthony Joshua needs to fight him to be the real. That he's the best, etc., etc., etc. I mean, it's going to be sickening. I can't stand it.
Well, you know what? We both said the same thing, except that you definitely believe that he doesn't want to have any real part of Anthony Joshua, and I got to please that in my heart of hearts too, because I think Anthony Joshua will just pound his way through Deontay Wilder, and Wilder will be down on his butt.
I don't think Deontay Wilder could beat Klitschko. I don't think Deontay Wilder could beat Ortiz. Any top heavyweight. I don't think Deontay Wilder could have beaten Tyson Fury. I mean, Deontay Wilder is a fraud. I mean, he's a typical. He's just like the fictional character in Harder They Fall. I mean, Tony Montana. He's just not. Let me move on. I have an interesting.
I know, but Bill, in all defense, I'm not saying you're not right. I believe in everything you say, but not all of it is his fault. I mean, that's his promotional team, and this is what they make him to be. Like the Harder They Fall, this guy believes in himself. And,
I know, but I get it, and I do. Deontay Wilder and some of the reasons why he fights and stuff like that, I respect him for that, and I agree with you that a lot of it is I'm sorry, Toro Montana. I'm sorry, I said Tony. I said Tony Montana. Yeah, I was thinking of a different thing. But thanks to Coach keeping me straight. But the truth of the matter is that. My big hang-up with fighters is when they pound their chest and say they're the best when they have nothing to show for it. They have nothing to prove. I mean, that they can prove it with. And Deontay Wilder is a great example. But nonetheless, I got an interesting email. It's a long one, but it's an interesting email. And it's basically, last week we were talking about boxing and MMA, and one of my topics of the day was, will boxing merge with MMA? And I know it's two different sports.
Yes,
but
I remember that. We talked about that, expanded on that quite a bit.
Yeah, and I was just, basically saying, will MMA take over fully? And we got an email from my man Ryan, who's actually in the chat room. He goes by the handle Quadruple G. And he says, hey, Billy C., I don't really say much in the chat room unless it's about MMA. That's because I only recently started getting back into MMA in the past few years because I've been losing interest in MMA. So I'm out of the loop on boxing. And by the way, his title of his email was The State of MMA from a longtime fan. He says, UFC right now is the most popular MMA league, and while they're in a good spot right now, there's definitely a lot of problems. This email might be too long for the show, but I thought I'd send you an email since MMA has been coming up and you are considering talking about new topics on the show. He says, I grew up watching boxing in the 90s, but in 2001 I discovered MMA in Japan, which was a lot different than the UFC we see here today in America. It became my favorite sport, and I was training within a year of becoming a fan. He says the number one organization in Japan was called Pride Fighting Championships, and it was in a ring like boxing, not in a cage. The judging system was vastly different with one of the biggest differences being the judges scored the fight as a whole, not round by round. The rules were also different. The Japanese MMA scene was fun, but had some issues. There was no athletic commission, so the rules were a little more hardcore, with kicks allowed to take place on a grounded opponent. There was absolutely no steroid testing. You would see insane freak shows sometimes. There was Yakuza involvement with the Pride Fighting Championship as well. That ended up being their downfall. Pride didn't have two of the best fighters on long-term contract, and when those fighters went to a rival promotion, Pride sent Yakuza to threaten their managers. When this became public, Pride lost their network TV deal in Japan, which was the primary source of revenue. The Yakuza scandal became public in 2007. At this point, most hardcore fans who watched both the Pride and the UFC considered UFC to be inferior for many years, and that was true. The MMA was banned in the States until 2001, so naturally, Pride in Japan acquired all that talent. Pride made big money. They still hold the MMA attendance record for something around 95,000 people. Some of their highest rated events had 40 to 50 million views. UFC got their first success in 2005 with that reality show, The Ultimate Fighter, that came on Spike TV. Many casual fans didn't know it, but the UFC was done if that show didn't work out for them. It was Zuffa's last attempt at turning UFC into something profitable. They were hemorrhaging money, about $45 million in the hole in 2004. Lucky for them, the show was a smashing success. So as Pride was struggling in Japan, losing their TV deal, UFC became a huge success in the States. UFC ended up buying Pride and acquired their whole roster. The good news was after UFC bought Pride, they basically had all the best fighters in the world under one banner. There was some bad news too, because many of those fighters were used to fighting in a ring. They were used to 10-minute rounds. They were used to fighting under different judging criteria, etc. The cage is a tool that can be used against you. When you think about the drastic difference in rules, judging, and going from a ring to a cage that's 30 feet wide, it's totally a different sport. There will always be people arguing over which is better, but everyone can agree it's different. The landscape of MMA basically changed overnight. The unified rules and a 10-point must system in the UFC were created to get around the widespread ban on MMA in the States, and it worked, but it's far from perfect. MMA is still really young compared to boxing, and it needs some changes, but when the government oversees things, it takes forever to get these things changes. Just want to stop right there for a second. The government's overruling, overseeing MMA. That I didn't know, and I don't think that's a true statement. But
I didn't know that.
Well,
I had no idea.
If the government was overseeing MMA, they would be overseeing boxing. But anyway, he says apparently there are a few changes coming to the judging in 2017 that will help with one of the judging issues. Currently, judges rarely give a 10-8 round. You basically have to kill somebody to get a 10-8 round, which leads to problems. A round where nothing happens is a 10-9, but a round with total domination and a referee almost stopping a fight is still going to be 10-9 on many cards. As you know, the UFC was recently sold, and there's a lot of speculation about the new owners, how they're going to do things. There's even talks of new owners taking the company public sometime down the line. who knows what they will get when they let Conor McGregor do boxing. If Conor wants to do boxing and tries to work his way up the ladder, I might follow that. As far as watching him getting smoked by a top guy, I just don't see the point. What the point would be. UFC has used Floyd's name as a marketing tool for close to 10 years now, so I'll just assume that's all it's going to do. And I agree with that. Dax said that last week.
Wow.
Yeah, Dax said that last week. And the truth of the matter is there's no way Conor McGregor could stand a chance with Floyd Mayweather in a boxing ring. And I think everybody knows that. He says, I don't really mind public rivalry like that for the state of promotion, but it would be cool if the UFC and boxing could work together to help each other out. I don't mean like mixing events with some boxing and some MMA, but surely there's something they could offer each other. UFC has a great online streaming service, etc. And by the way, I do think they should promote events, to be honest with you. I think that would help both sports. He says, I don't know enough about boxing to really speak on it, but something seems off with the promoters in America. How do you have a great fight like Kovalev Ward and nobody even knows about it? It would be one thing if people knew about it and just didn't buy it, but nobody even knew about it. That's because Kovalev wasn't that big of a name in terms of casual fans. And Andre Ward, I've been saying this for years, can't draw flies to a garbage convention. This guy is piss poor when it comes to people knowing who he is outside of the diehard boxing fans. He says UFC definitely does a better job promoting their product. He says they also have another problem with weak divisions. For example, if you look at the heavyweight and light heavyweight divisions, they're full of dinosaurs. Their number 3 heavyweight is a guy named Alistar. He's 36 years old, and he's been knocked out a total of 15 times between MMA and kickboxing. The 205-pound champ is a 37-year-old former Olympic wrestler with a lifetime of wear and tear in his body. He's got kidney issues from cutting weight and wrestling, bad knees, and he's out with an injury. And he's only champion because John Jones can't stay out of trouble. He's currently serving a suspension for performance-enhancing drugs he claims was a false positive from erection pills. When the UFC brought USADA in last year to do their advanced random steroid testing, we saw some major changes in rankings and fighter physiques. We also see tons of injuries and fight cancellations in the UFC. There have been something like 33 changes made to main and co-main events in the past 12 months because somebody's always getting hurt. I know some of the injuries are legit, but come on, people can't really be getting hurt that much. Anyway, I just wanted to give you a heads up on the UFC because it's full of BS too, if you follow it closely. I know it was a long email, and thank you for everyone for hanging tight, but I felt it was important to read because, we've been talking, Sal, the last few weeks about how dangerous and bad and poor the sport of boxing is. And, everybody's looking at MMA and UFC specifically and the success, and we're like, oh, look at UFC. Then finally, we get some counterpoint on that, saying, hey, the UFC ain't all roses either. And my man, Quadruple G, gave us some facts to chew on. So I appreciate the email. And what do you think about the UFC not being all roses? I mean, does it shock you?
It doesn't shock me at all, Bill. And like I said, we know that a fan base has been created and established and it's growing at the UFC. But the bottom line is UFC is still young in our country, and it's got to go through growing pains and evolve. And I'll tell you why. That, like, as he was referring to, in the Asian countries or Orient, this has been going on, so it has its own set of rules. But you look at all these injuries. I remember steroids was just being looked at when I was fighting in the 70s and 80s, and most fighters, even my weight, would never take it because we got to tear weight off and stuff. But and that promotes building muscle tissue, which is heavier than fat. And, you usually gain weight, as you're moving up. There are other enhancements you could do with multivitamins and things, which is legal and everything else here. But when you see, as I kind of documented and looked at the sports world, and I'm talking about baseball, football, when you look at muscle pulls, you look at strains, you look at hemorrhage, you look at this, a lot of these are precursors or signs to somebody, and not everybody, with somebody possibly juicing up or doing steroids, because steroids can damage or weaken or do something to connective tissue. Not so much that it weakens the tissue as much as it creates a stronger muscle which can't be supported by the connective tissue. And I'm getting into my physiology mode right now. Thank you very much. And so there's a lot that has been happening right before our eyes that can almost make one assume that steroids, literally has taken over a lot of these athletes as far as driving them and giving them. And if it's unregulated or not as regulated in MMA, then it could go wild, and you never know who's fighting who with a natural body or enhanced with steroids. But I know it's going to have its growing pains. It has to. It has to. So when you look at that from that email, that's a great email. Maybe boxing's not in a bad state as we think it is, because comparatively speaking, each has their own trade-off of what would you rather be dealing with at which stage of the career, which stage of the evolution of the sport. And I think boxing, we've been around long enough boxing that we know, like I said, whether we have to reboot or resend or see what's going to happen. But MMA, and I haven't followed MMA much, but, like I said, I think they've got their own whirlpool or cesspool that they got to start cleaning up and see what's going to happen.
The bottom line is, and I didn't really believe that MMA or specifically UFC was all roses, but the one difference I do like about it is the fighters fight the right fights. They make the matchups people want to see. They're not afraid of losing their O. The fighters that do lose do not lose value by losing. They just seem to be heading in a the fighters still want to prove they're the best by fighting the best, and boxing has taken a path. The difference in boxing now, Sal, is they have taken a path where of the least resistance. They want the easiest fight for the most amount of money, and they brag about it. It's one thing to do the easiest fight and not brag about it, but these fighters today are bragging that they're getting the easy fight and big paydays. I mean, Danny Garcia's father went on public record saying, "Oh yeah, we make $3 million for basically fighting a bum," and to me, that ruins it because everybody else wants it too. And as far as steroids, you know what? There's always going to be cheaters, Sal. And steroids, because it's like designer, and these guys can basically whip it up. Once they catch up to it, the powers that be, they put it on the banned substance list. These guys are mixing up another concoction to beat the system. So, you know what? Why fight it? Let them friggin' juice up and do whatever they want. The whole issue here is the even playing field. What you don't want is one guy juicing up and the other guy not juicing up. I mean, that's where it's cheating. But if both guys were allowed to friggin' juice up as much as they want, they'll find something else to try and cheat their way through it. I mean, that's just the way it is. Some people cheat and some people don't.
No, and that's the whole thing. And when the rubber meets the road, fighters got to really look at it. Do I want to be building my career on some enhancement, or do I want to know it comes from me, and if you believe in the God above, and you bring your body, you hone it in, you shine it, you make it razor sharp, and you do it through a balanced life. You do it through exercise, stressing the body and resting the body, and nutrition, and you do what you got to do to be the best you can be. That's the natural path, and I think that's the way it should be. Maybe they should have a drug league and a natural league, and everybody gets tested. Who knows? Hey, that's it. Hey, guess what? They have so many damn belts for everything else. I think they should start a new division. Hey, those that don't want to use any enhancements, go into this league. The ones that want that, let's see what the fan base chooses.
That's the second belt you wanted to come up with in the last two shows we've done. The worst thing is we have too many belts, and you can want to do two more. But hey, we got a couple of good fights this weekend. Anthony Joshua against Eric Molina. Not that it's going to be a competitive fight, but we get to see Anthony Joshua. Everybody wants to see this guy in the ring. He's become.
I like him. He's a good guy.
Really, I think he's become.
I like what he stands for right now. There could be some skeletons in his closet too, but right now He's a well-trained fighter. He comes to fight. He's a well-conditioned fighter, and he has no excuses thus far. He comes out there and he does his best to win, and he does it in a dominant fashion. So let's see what happens.
Everybody likes to see this guy. They talk about, when he's going to fight, and we're getting to see him this weekend on Showtime. So I'm looking forward to that and seeing a big performance. Also, the return of Terence Crawford. He is fighting both of these guys, Anthony Joshua and Terence Crawford, are fighting very beatable opponents. Terence Crawford is taking on John Molina, who's a tough guy, but he's never going to be able to stand in there with Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford should have an easy way of it, but I think it's going to boil down to, what kind of performance he puts on. And it should be a dominating performance. And Abner returns to the ring as well this week. So this coming week, we got some good fights to talk about, for next week as we wind down. This holiday season is upon us pretty quickly, and it's going to be past us just as quick. I can't believe we're already in the first week of December, and by this time next week we'll be in the second week of December. By this time next week we'll be in double digits. We'll be in double digits, So time, she's a moving quickly, huh?
It is. Wherever you go, and that's where you'll be.
It's wherever you go, that's where you are. Come on, Slip.
I'll get it right one day.
For some reason, I don't think so. But anyway, tonight, Monday Night Football, the Jets are playing the Colts. Is anyone going to watch the game? Anyone? Any signs? Oh, I think somebody's raising their hand. No. That was just somebody with an itch.
Somebody's stretching in front.
I will watch the game, but I'm sick over the Jets, and I'm sick over their mentality and what they are doing as an organization. Ryan Fitzpatrick is the worst quarterback I have ever seen. I don't know if he's the worst I've ever seen, but he's definitely not good for the Jets, and there's no reason.
Could he be the Deontay Wilder of football?
No, I wouldn't even give him that.
No.
Deontay Wilder.
No, okay.
Deontay Wilder's probably better than him in football. Let's just say that. Deontay Wilder, let me tell you, Deontay Wilder is an athlete.
He is an athlete. I'll tell you what, anybody with his frame, his height and his proportion, no, this guy's an athlete, so I give him credit.
Yeah,
I don't want to bash the guy. He's a world champion, whatever belt he holds, and like I said, maybe it's not all him. He's just doing what he believes he's doing, and it's a lot of his team behind him.
Yeah, Ryan Fitzpatrick is the worst. The Jets are showing that not only don't they have any faith in their young quarterbacks, but they don't have any consideration or pride for their fan base. The fan base doesn't care if the Jets win, the rest of their games this season. It means nothing for us as Jet fans. All it means is that the season is we're going to lose a higher round draft pick in March or April. So by the Jets putting Ryan Fitzpatrick in the game is a complete stupid move, and it's all coming from the coach. That Todd Bowles is as smart as the rock that I trip over every day I come in my house. Todd Bowles is a dumb shit. And the bottom line is he has no business coaching an NFL team, let alone my team. And the worst part about it is the upper management, the GM, and the owner aren't doing anything about it. That's when you grab the coach by the throat and you say, listen, you little piece of shit, you don't know what the hell you're doing. You've ruined this team in a matter of 24 months. This is what you're going to do. We got money invested in not one but two young quarterbacks. You're going to play them, see what we got so we can make up a decision. Do we need to find another one in the offseason? Because they're certainly not bringing back Ryan Fitzpatrick. And I certainly don't want to see them pick up another old, faded quarterback like Tony Romo or any other friggin' cast-off that's in the NFL.
A retread.
That's what they're doing. The Jets are so incapable of locating talent in the college ranks that they can't even draft the quarterback. They haven't done it successfully I mean, Kenny O'Brien, I feel guilty that I hated him so much at that time, because if we had Kenny O'Brien right now, the Jets would be, a winning franchise. They would be a dominating franchise. I mean, we had Richard Todd. He choked in the championship game against Miami, and we had Kenny O'Brien, who never got us to a championship game. We did have Vinny Testaverde. He was a retread, but he did bring us to a championship game. And believe it or not, we had Mark Sanchez, who brought us to not one, but 2 championship games, all of which we've lost, all those games. So the truth of the matter is we need a real quarterback and a real coach. So
where's Joe Willie when you need him?
I think, I would take him in a second. I think the bottom line is the Jets should be planning for next year. We need to get rid of the coach and get rid of Ryan Fitzpatrick. And when the smoke settles and clears, we'll see what we got. Bring in a real coach, an NFL coach. And I got news for you. We used to have a guy named Mike Westcott, who was the special teams coach. I would like to see him as a head coach of the Jets. He would do well. But anyway, man, I'm off on the Jet tangent, huh?
I was going to say, I'm just letting you ramble on with that, because I know it hits a note. I know you're passionate about it, and I know you love your New York Jets, pal. Hey, go ahead. Let's hear more.
Well, they're playing the Colts, and poor Andrew Luck. I mean, there's a guy, Andrew Luck. You put Andrew Luck on the New York Jets, and you got a team that wins
With
a lot.
With a name like that, how can you not? Andrew Luck, I like that.
Well, you win a lot of games. Andrew Luck is the real deal as a quarterback. Unfortunately for him, the Indianapolis Colts have not surrounded him with any talent. So, unfortunately for him, we'll probably see him get beat up a little bit. But I don't think the Jets come out on top tonight. I hope they don't. But anyway, speaking of coming out on top, joining us right now, and he's got some insight on some stuff to get me off boxing talk. Dax Khan's with us now. What's up, Dax?
Hey, how's everybody doing? Did you get that snow up there?
Good morning, Dax.
Good morning, Sal. You know, I don't want to talk to you, Sal. You're down there. You have no snow.
Did I get the snow?
No, but I miss it, pal. I miss it. I want some, man.
Did I get the snow? It's still snowing as we speak. You know, we
got about a snow job.
We got about 4 inches on the ground, and they said we were only going to get 1 to 2. There's already 4 on the ground. It doesn't look like it's going to slow down anytime soon.
You got that much? Actually, you know, it was real nice by me. Real quick, you know, I live in a small little town now, and right next to me there's kind of a like an open little field. It's not a huge field. It's like a little small thing, and they have the town Christmas tree. And yesterday, all the kids were out there. They were decorating it and setting it up and putting the lights on. And you know, and it just happened to snow last night. So you know, it's just quite a coincidence. But you know, it's telling me, as you guys are saying, it's December here, man. 2016 is going to be over before we know it.
You're not kidding. And I tell you, this year was really hard for me to catch up on stuff. Like, you know, it was warm for a while, and it made me, you know, not cover the windows, not put my, markers on the driveway for the plow guy. And now all of a sudden, it's cold, it's snowy. I got no markers, I got no plastic, I got no gods, I got nothing.
It is the weather. You know, we have no stability in the weather anymore. You know, there are no seasons. It's, you know, you never know what you're getting in the morning. Last week, people were wearing shorts. You know, down by you, Sal, another reason. You know, at least you guys know down here it's going to be warm. What color shorts should I wear today?
Yeah, that's what hey Dax. That's what Sal has to worry about. You know, should he put
exactly? You know, I wish I had such problems.
He wonders should he put a little bit of sunblock on or a lot of sunblock on. You know. Anyway, what do you got for us, Dax?
Only when I go out and run.
What do you got? What do you got for us, Dax?
All right. You know, aside from the fights, we'll get into that in a few minutes. You know, last week I was harsh on Peter Fury for some unneeded comments. This week, though, he said some stuff that should be considered. You know, a comment he made is, you know, guys who willingly absorb punches with their hands, without their hands up, coming forward, taking face shots without defensive skills should be looked at to avoid further incident. we understand it's one thing to get caught up in a war during fights. It's one thing for, guys to go out there and say, let's let it all hang out and let's just see who the winner is. Safety first has been a touchy topic in boxing. The Nicholas Walters fight, his quitting against Lomachenko, when he seemed to really be, in well conditioned, the only thing bruised on him was his ego. So, that's still buzzing around. It still has a bad taste in people's mouth. But, much of this was directed at, not that fight, and not at anybody in particular, but, the recent Nick Blackwell incident. I'm not referring to his fight against Chris Eubank Jr. earlier this year when referee Victor Loughlin and Blackwell's corner should have stopped that fight. I still feel, thank goodness, Chris Eubank Sr., his experience, allowing a clear mind, telling Jr. hit the body, not the head, that really actually saved Nick Blackwell from certain death that night, in my opinion. But his recent sparring incident, that landed Blackwell back in the hospital.
Unbelievable. I read that last week, Dax. I want you to talk about it because it was, you put your hand in the fire, you're going to get burned. And, when you're told not to put your hand in the fire, you're going to lose your hand. Listen to me. I want you to talk and expand on this because I read this, my jaw dropped down.
Wait a second.
Go ahead.
Wait a second. You mean if I put my hand in the fire, my hand is going to get burned?
It's going to happen.
If I hurt.
Holy shit.
Get one of the gloves that you sell on, the infomercial thing.
Wait a minute. Let me ask you another question, Nostradamus. If I put my hand in a pail of water, will it get wet?
Well, that is a likelihood, especially if it goes in barehanded.
If I do put it,
can wear some.
If I do put it in barehanded. So in other words, if I step on a nail, will it hurt my foot?
Not necessarily. Now we're getting in a gray area, depending on the kind of sole on your shoe, or if you're in bare feet.
I was talking bare feet, but then again, Dax, he sleeps on a bed of nails. Let's let Dax finish.
I'll tell you a story about that one.
Let's let Dax finish his report. Okay, Sal, please. Okay.
That's what I want. I know. I want to hear Dax because I'm very upset about this. I read this and I was like, putting my hand in the fire. I said he's going to get burned. Go ahead.
Yeah, obviously, Nick Blackwell has some responsibility for this. He's 26 years old. He should know better. He's been told. He's been warned. As Blackwell's father, John, says, the sport's like an addiction for him. His former trainer, had said that Nick had been around the gym. Gary Lockett said, Nick's been around the gym. He's been helping some of the other fighters, and he's been hinting around that he wanted to step back in the ring. He asked me if I train him. I said no. We all knew, how this was going to end. But now, the question is the BBBFC, they're going to be, and they've been urged, to take some action, investigate this gym and the fighter who went in there against Nick, knowing Blackwell's history, was this reckless? We talk about all the time how a gym, if you're a gym owner and you run a gym, you have a responsibility to the fighters in that gym, whether they're a professional, whether they're an amateur, on what you can allow to happen. We see so many times throughout the years, we've seen more fighters actually lose their careers through gym wars than we've actually seen what they've taken inside the ring during the bout after that bell rings. So right now we have to say, should the BBBFC actually go on and investigate this, or is this something that everybody there knew what the chances were, they took it upon themselves? Where's the line really going to be drawn here? Who should be held at fault? The new Blackwell's condition, again, is any different than what I stated about the gym wars? Where is the line drawn? This is far from a condition where we're just saying that people are being overly safe.
If there's a known, in my opinion, and I don't, listen, Dax, you're right. They got to do something. But my opinion, if you have a known condition, I don't care if it's an addiction or what, you got to stop. But how do you police it? In Blackwell's case, how do you police that? You as a gym owner, you don't let them in. It's a tough decision. It's the same thing. If you lose your leg, does that mean you stop walking? I don't know. It's a tough one. That's a tough one.
In boxing, any sport, boxing. From running a gym, being around the sport, fighters, working with sanctioning bodies, I know, Bill, you know exactly what it's like, even when guys are no longer in the sport, when they're well past it, it's hard for them to stay away, even if it is just coming to the gym to work out.
Oh, believe me, I know that more than anybody.
Absolutely, Sal. You know that, considering, you hold the world record for that layoff. But, so at some point in time, somebody has to really take charge, and it almost makes me understand why NYSAC has installed the $1 million insurance fee. It's not so much as a reason where they want to destroy boxing in New York and they cause it to decline even further, but it's more of a deterrent, and hopefully that will change, and that will help the sport in this state get back on its feet. But at some point in time, a lot of stuff needs to be looked at through the sport worldwide. Same thing with Samuel Peter coming back this weekend against Pulev. Peter, yes, he just fought last month. He fought a month before that, but he was 10 pounds heavier than he was a month before. He was in there. He was a punching bag. There comes a point in time where enough is enough.
Dax, when a fighter or anybody has an issue that becomes, like in Blackwell's case, obviously he had an issue and he shouldn't have been allowed in the gym. But, one of the things that I will throw in here, not that I think, there's a right answer or a wrong answer, but when people are healing from something traumatic, whether it be a brain injury from sports or even just an illness that people go over, the most important thing that we've at least proven that works is getting your life back to normalcy, whatever normalcy is for you or me or Nick Blackwell. So in one sense, letting him go back into the gym, to get back to where he feels he could be is normal and will help him. However, to let him spar and stuff in a drop-down, drag-out, sparring session is not too smart. As far as the New York State Athletic Commission...
Irresponsible at all parties.
Right. And as far as the New York State Athletic Commission, I've always said this, Dax. I can see where they were coming from with, covering their ass and trying to make it as safe as possible for the fighters, etc. But the New York State insurance deal that they've added, in my opinion, is a clear case of not thinking it through, or at least not having people that are aware of the sport of boxing before you pass a law. I deal with things all the time in companies where I go in or whatever, and I'm dealing with young management teams that don't have experience in management. They have a lot of great ideas, but one of the biggest mistakes that people make is they don't think an issue through. They come up with a great idea, and then they don't think it all the way through and create what we used to do as an old flow chart. If this happens, then do what? If that happens, then do this. All those things. And I think that in both of these cases, it's a case of not thinking it all the way through. And when that happens, sometimes even the greatest ideas can turn out to be a flop.
This is absolutely true, and you know me. Sal knows me. Anybody who's seen me on the air or at the fights, they know. They see the scar that I have. I've undergone, surgery to my head, so I have no idea how Nick Blackwell was even able to go in there and spar and do this. It baffles me. So all we can do is hope for the best. Before next topic, here's a quick one. We talk about, you mentioned non-boxing people shouldn't be involved with or in charge of boxing. I came across this tabloid gossip type magazine this weekend that drew me in on the richest fighters in boxing or of all time through ring purses and endorsements. One of the names on the list was Felix Trinidad, an estimated $30 million, except it was a picture of not Felix Trinidad, it was a picture of Felix Verdejo. Now, what does that say about boxing? Are we still far from being the mainstream sport that we think that they can't even get the right fighters right? The pictures of the right fighters in there correctly.
I think that's par for the cause, man. It just shows you Felix is Felix. Hey, you know what, Felix? What's the difference? If his name's Felix, print it.
Exactly. But sad news this weekend. A 25-year-old welterweight out of Chicago, Ed Bad Boy Brown. He was shot early Saturday morning, along with his cousin. They were leaving the gym after a late workout. The cousin was struck by a ricocheting bullet. Ed Brown was shot in the head. Brown on the track to a very promising career. He was undefeated. This took place over in the East Garfield neighborhood of Chicago. We always speak about how boxing in now and in history has been the way out. Boxing has been known as the means to an end, where you go when there are no other options in the world. Ed Brown had been shot 8 times in the past. He pulled through. This is a kid who's had nothing but hard times and tragedy in his life. If people remember his mother, back in 2003, she died in the E2 nightclub stampede. I don't know how many people remember that. And this really struck a lot of people hard. David Diaz, who you've called fights with, Bill, the Mando Serrano and the Eli Nunes fight, he was very heartbroken, considering he's from Chicago, and he would mentor Ed Brown. His first manager, Mike Saracola, he always said that, I'm amazed that he made it this far. He was on this earth for a reason, considering all the heartaches and tragedy he's been through. His current manager, Cameron Duncan, stated, he lost his life at 25 years old, for nothing. This is, what really happens here. This is one of those things where, we see people have this problem sometimes on walking away from certain things. The sport, yes, we see how it brings you to that next level. It's always that way, that means to an end, that way out. But, unless you're going to walk away from those people around you and surrounding you that are the negatives in your life, unless you're going to leave that neighborhood and that area that you want to do better for, nothing is going to improve in your life. And unfortunately, this is what happened to Ed Brown, a young kid at 25 years old who really, in my opinion, might have been a world champion.
Yeah, it's a shame. You hate hearing that for anybody that age, but it's terrible stuff. Terrible.
Absolutely.
This weekend's fights. What a great weekend this is.
Coming up?
Yes, I don't know which fights to watch, what to DVR. This is impossible. It's almost not fair.
Well,
you get a drought, and all of a sudden they hit you with all this.
Well, a lot of them are showcase fights. I don't think Molina's going to give much of a challenge to Crawford, with the exception of his size. He is big. I don't think Anthony Joshua is going to get much trouble from Eric Molina. And the Mares fight, that'll probably be decent, but I want to watch them all. The only thing is I'm going to have the Anthony Joshua fight on mute, because I'm terrified at what's going to come out of Deontay Wilder's mouth. That fraud of a heavyweight champion we got.
That card over there is it's a setup. As I've been saying, the UK, they have the heavyweight division on lockdown. Eric Molina is the guy that is the known journeyman that's going to go out there. He comes out to try and win. Make no mistake, Eric Molina's not there to lay down. Anthony Joshua, of course, he's going to win. It's going to be fairly easy. On the undercard, you have Dillian White versus Derek Chisora. That's going to be more or less a fight to see who really takes Eric Molina's place. Chisora, a tough guy, but he's never been able to reach that next level. He's put on some good fights, but you also have Luis Ortiz against David Allen. David Allen, solid guy, but he's kind of in that same area. But then you have Joseph Parker versus Andy Ruiz this weekend. And now the fight that everybody's really clamoring for is Anthony Joshua versus Joseph Parker. So, when you look at this, this is almost like a setup for a mega showdown.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, England, listen, I've said it, the UK has boxing on its back, and they're definitely shifting into another gear, and here in the United States, all we do is cherry pick and avoid confrontation and pound our chests. It's disheartening, but thank God for the Brits.
And absolutely, and same thing for the Mares and Quayler card. That right there is, that's kind of a pick'em fight, in my opinion. Mares hasn't looked that great. But on there you have Jamal Charlo versus Julian Williams. Julian Williams looks in great shape. I've seen some pictures of him the other day. He's only 3 pounds over 154, so he's not going to worry about drying himself out. But also on that card you have Hugo Centeno Jr. You also have Eric Lubin. Right there, the potential bouts with the winners and losers going on there in those fights. So what I'm seeing here is a setup for 2017. it's like almost unfolding in these last few fights that, you would figure by the summer of 2017, all these matchups could be made. In the Terence Crawford and John Molina Jr. fight, Crawford, of course, I believe is going to win. John Molina Jr., no out. Never mistake that. I don't think John Molina Jr. has been an easy out for anybody. But you have some good stuff going on there. Mason Menard against Ramondo Beltran. Shawnee Monahan, the light heavyweight division has really been picking up. We speak about the killers that are in there. Shawnee has been working with one of the big, probably he might be the killer of the division, Arthur Beterbiev. I know he's been getting in his sparring with Arthur just as recently as yesterday. So, we might be able to expect something different from Monahan, maybe a rematch or a fight with Joe Smith Jr. goes on there. Right now, I wish we'd seen this the whole rest of the year, because this might be the most exciting weekend of boxing, period, for 2016.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And then next weekend we got B-Hop, and then we got to wait till 2017. But you're right, it's finishing off with a bang, and I'll be looking forward to it. We'll be talking about that all week, since that's really the big news is exactly what you say, Dax. So we'll be chatting that. You got any other final thoughts?
My final thoughts is, how many guys test dirty on that Russian fight card this weekend?
Oh my God! Anytime in Russia, and then they have their Russian anti-doping committee, which is a joke. Anybody that goes over there, anytime you go over there, you test positive. We would test positive.
He got blasted out of there.
I know.
It's so funny, because even when I was going towards the 80 Olympics and back then and everything else, the Soviet Union at the time, they were so far advanced as far as their blood doping or this, that, and everything else, that it was just amazing. Some of the things you'd hear coming out as far as what they would do, and some of the things they were able to do under the radar, and you never knew. And you look at some of the field of their athletes across the board. Were they all natural, or were some of them enhanced with everything they did? It's amazing. Really,
anytime
away from the ones.
Anytime. I was speaking to a lady yesterday who was talking about how these kids around her had all ended up in the emergency room because they had overdosed on drugs, and they were prescription drugs. And she's saying she doesn't understand this. She's in her probably mid-60s, early 70s, and she said, in her days she never thought that anything like this would happen. And, with the appearances that people are always nowadays, appearance is everything. And right now everybody is afraid to be known as that guy who didn't win. It's almost, I don't know if it's more of a pride thing or if it's more of a mental issue. It's really hard to understand why these people go out there and they knowingly risk their lives, and whether it's through drug use or, it's PED use or any other type thing, staying in bad neighborhoods, it's not like it was even when I was young. You didn't know these things. Now you know it's out there. You have the internet, which everybody just seems to think it's a use for social media, but it was called the information superhighway for a reason. Why doesn't people take advantage of these things? There was another documentary I was watching recently where down in South America, these people, they want to look so good in terms of their physique that they actually inject themselves with oil. And these guys, they're looking like monsters. Don't get me wrong. Some of them are looking like a prime Arnold Schwarzenegger or Lou Ferrigno. But they're injecting literally kitchen oils inside them. And this oil is like getting hard as a rock. And it's literally splitting apart their skin. But they still keep doing it.
Unbelievable.
It's
unbelievable.
It's crazy stuff. I think of the Russian female weightlifters and stuff, and how manly they were. But yeah, it's definitely a different world. There's no question about that. Hey, Dax,
I don't understand the mentality of people. Maybe I'm just getting older, and as a parent, you start thinking differently. When you look at your kids, saying, you know what, some of these stupid things people do, I got to have these conversations with my kids, and when you do, your kid looks at you like you're an idiot.
You know why they do it? Because they can. One, the technology is out, and they can do it. But hey, Dax, I appreciate it. We'll catch you later in the week. We'll expect to hear from you on Thursday. We won't be doing a show on Friday, so we'll talk with you again on Thursday. All right?
All right, everybody, and Bill, get out there, shovel some snow, man. Stop making your wife do it.
That's what I got to do, man.
I wish I was up there to help.
Yeah, I wish you were,
Dax,
too.
Take care, man.
All right, Dax. Take
Sal,
care.
you're trying to make a comeback. Fly on up here. Help Bill shovel some snow.
Yeah, that's what he should do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll go back to
Balboa
snow.
did it.
All right, my man. That's Dax Khan. Check out his column up on BillyCBoxing.com.
Hey,
And-
Bill.
I just want to wrap it up here,
Yeah.
Sal. On this day in boxing history, December 5th, in 1986, Dwayne Thomas knocks out John the Beast Mugabe in the third round to win the vacant WBC World Junior Middleweight title that took place in Las Vegas. On this day in 1958, Don Jordan wins a 15-round decision over Virgil Atkins to win the World Welterweight title, and that took place in Los Angeles, California. On this day in 1981, Art Frias knocks out Claude Noel in the 8th round to win the WBA World Lightweight title, took place in Las Vegas. On this day in 1986, Greg Haugen wins a 15-round decision over Jimmy Paul to win the IBF World Lightweight title that took place in Vegas. On this day in 1998, Johnny Tapia wins a 12-round decision over Nana Kondadu to win the WBA World Bantamweight title. Took place in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And finally, on this day, December 5th, in 1947, despite hitting the canvas in the first round and once in the fourth round, Joe Louis retains his World Heavyweight title with a 15-round split decision over Jersey Joe Walcott at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Many people thought Jersey Joe won this fight. It set up a rematch 6 months later, which was dominated by Joe Louis. So that's what took place on this day, December 5th, in the sport of boxing. And Sal, we will be back on Wednesday. We won't be doing a show tomorrow, but we will be back on Wednesday and Thursday. We're going to open up the phone lines for a fan-driven Thursday as we prepare and talk about the big fights that Dax was just tantalizing us with for this weekend. So make sure you tune it in right here. And until then, I'll leave you with this. Make sure you tune in Wednesday morning. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, ciao, baby.